Howdy folks, Timber Drifter here. Sitting in this beautiful sunlight. Comes in between the clouds every once in a while. So I'm in the city park in the little town that I live near. Sitting on pine needles. Pine needles and little bitty green grass. It's March, which means the weather's going to do whatever it damn well pleases. The only thing predictable about March is how unpredictable the weather is. You know it's gonna snow blizzards, it's gonna rain, it's gonna be sunny, all the snow is gonna melt, there's gonna be floods, the wind's gonna blow hard. It's a beautiful month. So cleaning out this old yellow bowl here. Yellow bowl bulldog, diamond shank. Y'all have seen this pipe before if you watch my videos. This is my knockabout pipe, my work pipe. Every once in a while a snowflake blows by. And there's a pretty good crosswind blowing. In fact, I had to put you on this side. I started making the video over there and my beard was blowing around in my face. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about today is what's on my mind sitting here in this public place with my backpack and getting ready to smoke a pipe. Reminds me of my traveling around times, and they may not be over with, but I'm no hobo, but I've jumped a couple of trains here and there. The first time I think I was about 14. My hometown's got a couple different train tracks running through it. I remember one time I was riding my bike around down around the where the tracks are there. It seemed like I was always riding my bike or playing around down there, mostly because that's where the woods were in town. You could either go down by the river and be in the woods down there, or you could be in this kind of section of woods. It was probably only a few acres. And there was a lot of trash in there, and I remember there was an old well, and there were some old rail cars off to the side. But that's where the kind of wild place was in town. And there was a hobo jungle there, which is it's a place where the transients camp, which there was hardly ever anyone there. But anyway, last time I was in my hometown, that's all been taken out, and it's now a goddamn skate park. Excuse my language. But destroying the little bit of wild area in town to put in a skate park. Oh well. Anyway, so yeah, the first time I jumped a train, I think I was about 14 years old, and I saw this train coming down the tracks with a bunch of boxcars that had their doors open, and it was only going a few miles an hour walking speed. And, well, I just ditched my bike and jumped up in there. Rode it about 3 miles outside of town until I recognized the trestle, and the train slowed down, and I jumped off and walked back into town. Boy, was that exhilarating. Very exciting. But I've never traveled long distance on a train. I mean, if I have, I wouldn't talk about it. But, yeah. I've hitched around a good deal. Hell, even riding Greyhound is pretty rough traveling it sometimes. I think when I was about 17, I saw a guy in the old St. Louis bus station get damn near beat to death. For all I know, he did die. Anyway, he got beat down for his coat and shoes in a bathroom. Anybody who used to travel that stretch on Greyhound or Jefferson Lines probably remembers the old St. Louis station. It was a little slice of hell. You really had to watch your butt in there. Anyway, I'm familiar with traveling rough and I've known quite a few transients and hobos and things. They're mostly interesting folks. I was just kind of sitting around thinking about that. And one of the reasons it brought to my mind is I've been watching this documentary lately called Hobo. It's about an hour and a half long, and I've watched it, I think, 6 or 7 times in the last 3 weeks. Get this pipe fired up. Maybe. You might say I've been working with the material, watching Hobo. Just kind of an inside joke inside my own mind. Years ago, when I was probably 20 years old, I was living in the woods with a group of other folks, and this guy would come out to visit periodically, and he'd always bring a pie with him and a lot of stories. And I think, yeah, I was in my early 20s, and he was in his 60s, and he'd been a lot of things and been a lot of places, and studied and practiced various religions and spiritualities, and he had a lot to say. And anyway, when he was reading a book or listening to a series of lectures or something, he'd always say he was working with the material, and I used to kind of give him a little crap, you mean you're reading that book? And he'd say, well, no, I'm working with the material. Well, now I know what he meant. Working with the material. This hobo documentary, it'll either be in my liked videos section, or I'll make sure it's there before I post this. But it was made in the late '80s, early '90s, and it's kind of following a fella around called Bear Grease. And he has a lot to say. It's an interesting critique on society, as well as just being entertaining. And he talks about something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is the concept of freedom of the mind. And there's a kind of thinking that you do, a place that your mind goes to when you remove yourself, or you are removed from all of the normal things of life, when you're out exposed to the elements and danger and beauty, and maybe you're a little hungry or thirsty, you got a lot of time to yourself. Your mind just goes to a different place than it does when you're in the shower or driving to work. And it's hard to find that place unless you put yourself right in it. And the other thing that's in that documentary that he doesn't talk about, I don't think he talks about it, but it's there, is when you're a traveling person or a little different, there's a sense of otherness, of not belonging. You're not really welcome in civilized places like towns. When I experienced a little bit of that today, and it's all right. I mean, I'm all dressed in green and I'm carrying a backpack and sitting on these beautiful pine needles here. I'll give you a look around a little bit. So I was in the cafe this morning, and And I don't know that crowd. I know the nightlife crowd, I know the library crowd, I know the flea market crowd in town here, but I don't necessarily know the morning cafe crowd. And the feeling of being other, it's not necessarily, I mean, they don't look at you and tell you to get the hell out of here, but they mostly just ignore you, try to pretend you're not there. Maybe don't even acknowledge you when you say hi. Or if you nod your head at them, they look away, you know, that kind of thing. That's all right. I'm sure I'm like that with certain people myself. But yeah, I think about traveling by train from time to time, and I'm not going to do it anymore, though. I mean, things would have to get pretty bad, and I suppose for me to do that, but it's just a little too dangerous for me anymore. Danger brings excitement to traveling, or rather, the possibility of danger brings excitement. But when you're jumping trains, you are trespassing. When you're on railroad property or on a train, you are trespassing. And other than just being physically dangerous, jumping on a train, moving or otherwise, is dangerous. Uh, Being on a train is dangerous. Load shift, you could get crushed, you could get trapped. But you're putting yourself in a situation where law enforcement is not likely to be very nice to you. And you got to understand that. The railroad security, the bulls, probably not going to be nice to you if they catch you. And cops are not going to be nice, generally. I mean, they don't know who you are. They don't know you're a guy just out having an adventure. You might be a bad person. You might be a violent criminal. You might be a drug addict, a thief. So they're not going to be nice, typically. And I don't have any kind of a record, and I sure don't want to get one at this point. So I'm not likely to go jumping trains and traveling around that way, although it does appeal to me at times. I think about it. But I sure love reading about it and hearing the stories of the tramps and hobos and the freedom to travel where you will and when you want to and do as you please as much as you can. That's something to consider. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking about. Take care.